Hey guys, it's Andrea, and today I am doing my May wrap-up video. This month I read a total of 14, but to be more specific, I read 10 novels, 3 novellas, and 1 graphic novel. It was less than last month, but I'm not really disappointed because I still think that is a good amount. So let's just do this. The first book was When It Happens by Suzanne Colasanti, and I gave this book 2 stars. I did not really enjoy it. It is a love story about this really genius girl, and she's a senior. It's gonna be her senior year, and she really wants to go out with this one guy who's a jock and blah blah blah. And then about this guy who's like the slacker musician, and he's in love with the girl, Sarah. That's her name, right? Yes. But, you know, she would never go after him because he's a slacker musician type, and she's too good for him. It's alternating point of views, and I had quite a few problems with this. First of all, I thought that the guy's point of view sounded like girl. And I thought the girl's point of view sounded like a cutesy little 13, 14-year-old, and she's supposed to be a senior. So I thought that was like a little bit ridiculous. And there's just a lot of other things that I wasn't really a fan of. If you're interested in more details, I will leave my review down below. The next thing I read was a graphic novel, and that was Saga Volume 1 by Brian K. Vaughan, and the artwork is by Fiona Staples. And this I gave 5 stars. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was so good. And this story is about these star-crossed lovers from different planets that are battling each other. Actually, no. She's from a planet, he's from a moon, and they are battling each other. And they were both in the army for the opposite sides, but then they end up meeting, they obviously fall in love, they have a child, and both sides are after them because they both abandoned their posts and whatnot, and all that fun jazz. The thing I like about this is that it's a good story, but it's also very funny, it's action, but it's hilarious, and it's really good. Though I would say this is probably 18 plus because it does contain adult content such as nudity and sexual content as well. So there's that. The next book I read was Burn for Burn by Jenny Han and Siobhan Vivian. This I also gave 5 stars. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. This is a contemporary novel, kind of. There is also a hint of some supernatural elements in it, but it doesn't really delve deep into it. So I'm really interested to see what that's about. But basically it focuses on these 3 girls who end up coming together to get revenge on 3 different people, and that someone who has done them wrong, and they're getting back at them. I thought this was really interesting because they're not really afraid to go out there and do something. Some things were kind of funny and kind of petty and just entertaining, and some things were a little bit more serious of what they did and kind of the consequences involved and them becoming closer and whatnot. I thought it was really good, and I definitely recommend it to anyone who thinks revenge sounds like fun. I thought it was cool because it's always something that, like, you wish you could do because it sounds fun, but you never actually would. Like, I would never do the things they did, but, like, I kind of got to vicariously live through them in this story, which was a lot of fun. These next several books I read in the Bout of Books readathon, and I did a wrap-up video about that, so I will link that somewhere on the screen. And you can click there to go see more detail about these. I'm just going to go through real quick, say the title, say how many stars I gave it, and move on because I've already talked about them. So if you want to know more detail or look at that video, I will leave that here somewhere, and I will also link it down below. Right, the first book I read in the readathon was Eve by Anna Carey, and I gave this 3.5 stars. The next book was Die for Me by Amy Plum, and I gave this 3.5 stars. The next book was Until I Die by Amy Plum, and I gave this 4 stars. The next one was Novella in this series, and it was Die for Her by Amy Plum, and I gave it 2.5 stars. The next book was The Iron King by Julie Kagawa, and I gave this 4 stars. The next one was a novella, The Winter's Passage, and I gave that 4 stars. And that is by Julie Kagawa, and it is after that last book. The next book I read was The Body Finder by Kimberly Durding, and I gave this 3.5 stars. And then the last one I read in the readathon was Heart to Heart by Lorleen McDaniel, and I gave this 3 stars. And then after that beautiful amount of books in a week's time, I took several days and read nothing. I think I was very overwhelmed by the readathon because I had a lot going on at the same time, and it finished and I was like, I don't have to read now. So after those several days, I read If I Should Die by Amy Plum, which is the third and final book of the Revenants series. I am not going to go into this because this is the third book, but I did do a review of this series. So I will annotate that, and I also will leave it in the description below. So if you want to check that out, you can. To put it really simply, the series is a paranormal series, and I gave this book 4 stars, and I thought it was a pretty solid series, and though it may have been pretty predictable, it was still very interesting, and it was fun and enjoyable, and I definitely recommend it. The next book I read was The Desires of the Dead by Kimberly Durding. This was the second book after The Body Finder, and I gave it 3 stars. I didn't think it was as good as the first one. Honestly, I got a little bit bored in this, and I think the series may have gotten a little overhyped to me because I'm kind of finding it disappointing. It's not bad, but I guess I expected more out of it. It's just okay, and it was kind of boring me. So I own the next book, so I'll probably get around to it, but I'm in no rush to do so. And the last book I read of the month of May was the novella Just One Night by Gail Forman, which comes after Just One Day and Just One Year, if you have read those. If not, read them. If you did read them, you know that it ends up on a very unanswered ending. It is not clear, and everyone wanted closure and wanted to know what happened, and we're all left not knowing. So this novella happens afterwards, and it tells us what happened. So we get to see what happened in that night when they saw each other. If you haven't read this, you don't know what I'm talking about, but if you have, you do. I gave this 4 stars because it gave me closure, and it was beautiful closure, and I needed that closure, and that is why it's 4 stars. It was written differently than the books, but I think it was written well. I don't think I necessarily would have wanted the books written that way, but I thought for the purpose of the novella, it was written a good way. So I am glad that she did create that novella so that we finally got to find out what happened at the end. And if you read those books, you need to read the novellas so that you can have closure. Alrighty guys, that was my May wrap-up video. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I do just as well in June, maybe better, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!